Okay. All right, we are back
give you
with
guys
our
a snow
Volleyball
clap this
Weekly.
weekend.
Yep, and we found the emoji button, and we're going to use it till it just gets really, really, really old. But instead, we've got our consortium of coaching intelligence, Dan Friend of Lewis and George Mason University, Jay Hosack, here to give us a bonus content of week after week 4 of action in NCAA Division 1-2 volleyball action. Now, there are 4 remaining teams that are undefeated in D1-2 volleyball. That's Hawaii at 9-0, BYU at 8-0, Santa Barbara at 6-0, and Long Beach State at 5-0. Do you feel like this is a good reflection of what it could look like down the line at the end of the season? We'll start with Coach Dan Friend.
Yeah, I think ultimately I played 2 of those guys with BYU and Hawaii, and I certainly feel like those 2 teams for sure are going to be teams that will be down the road and very formidable, and could have that undefeated streak last for a little while. And I have to look on the schedule to see what that next big challenge is for both of them. I think Santa Barbara again, statistically wise, and watching them on video, I certainly think they're a talented group and doing some really nice things, and kind of where their next challenge lies is it will be interesting in terms of knocking them from that undefeated group. Long Beach, on the other hand, I mean, they played Pepperdine this last weekend, got a good win. Concordia went 5 with them. I'll be curious to kind of see where they're at. I think he's got a couple pieces that are really good. Middle blocker's an All-American. Setter and Rivera is doing a nice job. But I think they're a team that's probably going to take a few losses, but will be certainly one at the end of the year that'll be tough for sure.
How about you, Jay?
Yeah, no, I would agree with Dan, and I'll go another step further, maybe a little in depth. There are 3 groups, I believe, in the top 15, 20 in the country, and those groups are the top 3 are BYU, Hawaii, and Santa Barbara. I think without question, those teams right now are probably deserving of being in that upper echelon. And if Long Beach had maybe 1 or 2 more matches against high-quality opponents, I might put them in that group as well right now. Then you got another group of of Lewis, Irvine, Stanford. They are teams that are right on the cusp of being able to break into that top 3, top 4 echelon. They're all teams with really good players. They're obviously well coached, and they've been building those teams up for the last couple of years to get to this point. And then the next group is the Pepperdines, the Penn States, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Mason, Princeton, Concordia, Loyola, San Diego, McKendree. Those are all teams that on any given night can beat anybody. And if you're watching the results from around the country, you're noticing that, yeah, those teams are beating each other up pretty regularly. And so I think right now, the top 15 is probably pretty solid in the 1 through 5 category, probably going to be pretty solid in the 5 or 6 through 10 category. And 11 through 15 on any given week can probably shift around a little bit. There's a team on the edge. San Diego's probably going to get some votes this week and maybe get in there. NGIT is probably going to get in there. Those are all deserving teams. They're all building and they're all doing great things. And, the top 10 is tough to break into, but the next 4 or 5 obviously can fluctuate. And that's fun for volleyball for fans alike.
Excellent. Well, let's go to our next topic as Boba Fett has joined us here on our
Boba Fett?
What? Whoa. Matches.
Never knew Boba Fett was really me, did you? Yeah. So
no, you're the Mandalorian. Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Disney Plus.
Now let's pick a couple of our matches of the week. 1 or 2 per face on the screen, and why?
Jay, I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to be watching 2 matches specifically. I'm going to be watching Ohio State, Penn State. Only because, as a former staff member at Penn State, that's always a great match to be a part of. There's a lot of Big Ten rivalry hoopla that goes along with that. Ohio State is maybe, built. I think Dan talked about it early. Coach Birch is building that program in his own eyes and doing things the way he wants it done. And it's interesting to see some small changes that are going on inside that gym and on their matches. So I really want to see, is Penn State for real? Are they going to be able to handle that kind of a rivalry? I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I'll be watching that one. Here's the one, though, I'm really going to be paying attention to, though. I'm going to be paying attention to Northridge against USC, and here's the reason why. Northridge is 2-5 right now. USC is 1-6 right now. And those are both programs that historically have been pretty strong. and in the top 10 consistently for forever, it seems.
Right.
But they both seem to be on a little bit of a rebuilding bound right now. So I'm kind of wondering which one of those teams is going to figure themselves out first. Is SC finally going to find a lineup that makes sense? Is Northridge finally going to be able to get past the finish line? They've gotten pretty close against some pretty good teams. They just can't seem to close it. I'm interested to see which one of those teams figures themselves out first. But those are the two matches I'll be watching the most.
All right, Coach Friend.
Yeah, I think ultimately for me, we talked about Long Beach being challenged. I think the UCLA Long Beach match will be a good one. You got UCLA, who certainly has some young pieces, Long Beach, who has some young pieces, and I actually got to see both those teams play in Canada early on in the year. So, hopefully I get to watch that match, because you can kind of see where those teams have built out just in a month. And they're going to play each other, and you'll get a good feel for both those teams. And certainly it'll be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a national championship match, right? 2 years ago.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it'll be a great one to watch. And then ultimately, you've got Princeton, who's playing, I believe, UCLA, and Princeton, who's playing San Diego as well. So Princeton's got a couple matches there that'll be
Saturday. And Princeton is at
Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ultimately, Princeton has been playing a challenging schedule for sure. Do you know what I mean? And do we see them take that next step? They played some really tough ones and were certainly competitive, but didn't get the W's. Do they find a way to get a few W's on these next matches that they're challenging themselves with?
Yep.
Well, from our discussions, I may have changed a little bit, but and it's not, again, because I'm a UCI homer, but it's because of the state of USC right now in being a 6-match losing skid. They're playing UC Irvine, but at least it's at Galen Center. So I want to see how this USC team responds. You got a team that's kind of down in USC, and I feel like after this BYU series, although Irvine lost, they actually started serving more tough, and they started mixing up their offense more. And you can see Patrick Vorenkamp, their setter, getting more confidence in running that offense now, and his location is getting better, and he's connecting well with Seconda and Schneidmiller, which could be a deadly combo at the pins for us. But the other match that's almost as big as a Super Bowl is the Jay versus Dan Bowl, which is happening on Saturday night. That's right, Lewis at George Mason. Obviously, the consortium of college coaching intelligence going head-to-head. You've got Dan's team at full strength, but you have Jay, who's not so full strength, but he has some new people that he's recruiting off the street that you may not be able to recruit or to scout, Dan. So it could be it's a wild card match for me.
Yeah. By the way, I am the con and Dan is the sortium in this whole.
Yeah. As soon as I figure out what sortium means, I'll tell everybody. Just so you guys know.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's always fun to play Dan's teams. They're obviously well coached, and that's not because he's sitting here next to me on the screen. It's because he's a good coach. He knows what he's doing. He's built that program at Lewis for the last number of years from a team that got vacated some victories over the earlier part and turned that program around and build it to be one of the best in the country year in and year out. So playing them is always tough. They're always physical. And boy, oh boy, they got some big guys on that team now. And for us right now, I wish we were at full strength, and that's not maybe putting us down any further than we should be. I wish we were full strength because I'd love to see that matchup, but we do compete really hard. And I think one of the things that people come to our matches and walk away with is that, we may not be the flashiest and we may not be, the fastest, and we may not have the big guns that we used to, but we sure do compete, and we flat out just get after it. And that's always fun. So, if you want to watch two teams, one of them that's going to be high flying and getting over it, and the other team is going to get bloody and grovel on the ground a little bit, that's going to be a fun match to watch. And I always enjoy watching it myself.
Yep. Well,
so my fun piece to throw in there that you don't know about, Rob, is so Jay coached me in Aruba on tour, and Jay's teams, just so you know, plays just like he would play. And I've seen him compete hard, and that's exactly how this team plays. And so I don't care who's on the floor. Those guys are going to go after it against us, and we're going to have our hands full. Do you know what I mean? And so,
right.
So he's done a great job there. But yeah, it was a good trip to Aruba. Another time, another story. Do you know what I mean? In terms of that, but yeah, it was good.
Those are the
right? I think I was dishing some sauce, right, Jay? I can't remember.
you were dishing some sauce and Aruba. Boy, that was a long time. How long ago was that? 15, 16 years ago?
Like 20 years ago.
Please. How old are we right now? My
This will
God.
go in the After Dark files, the underground files of College Volleyball Weekly.
There might have been some adult beverages had on that trip.
Hey, the last match, Rob, not to forget about, is UCSB and BYU. So,
oh yes, look at that.
That might be the premier match beyond all matches. I think it's at BYU, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're talking about Santa Barbara getting challenged and going on the road to a BYU team who's super confident and strong right now and being at home. And so packed house, that place is going to be full. And that'll be a great one to watch.
Yep.
Don't mark my words on this, but I believe Santa Barbara went out and beat BYU twice last year.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So there might be a little revenge on their minds for that trip for sure.
Yep. Hey, I wanted to, this was kind of on the fly here, but did you guys see the story about Cal State Northridge, about a history professor who passed away in January, or I'm sorry, in December, I believe? He leaves a $1 million endowment to CSUN men's volleyball specifically. Professor James Doc Sefton. He was a huge Cal State Northridge athletics fan, but he mentored the guys on the men's volleyball team and had a particular love for those guys and Jeff's crew. So I'm just curious, like, being coaches, what does a gift like that do for a program?
Sustainability. Huge. It's a huge sustainability thing between scholarships and funding and all that stuff. Arnie Ball worked really hard to endow Purdue Fort Wayne's men's volleyball, and he had worked on it like the latter half of his career, and it was $1 million thing that he was trying to put together. So to have somebody come in like that for your program and give that to you, I mean, they've got to be feeling fantastic about what's going to be going on in the future for them.
Yeah, you got to think about the fact how much that $1 million is going to go back for, and when you look at the return of investment. So $1 million, you don't just get $1 million put in your account. There's a percentage that you get out every year. It's a return of investment, but you figure the 4 to 5 or 6% return of investment on that. So you're going to get what, $50,000-$60,000 a year if you're lucky. Yeah. Imagine what you could do with $50,000 or $60,000 a year. Every 4 years, you can take an international trip and not stress about it. Every year, you can take an extra trip across the country to create a better experience for your players. Every year, you could have a throwback jersey for a fun match against another team and be able to use that for recruiting purposes. I mean, that's a huge, huge deal. And I did not hear about that story, but it's people like that on the periphery of every program. They're sitting there waiting, and man, I'll tell you, that's fantastic. I love you. I'm sorry to hear him leave, but I'm really excited for Northridge for that to happen to them.
Well, the other key point that I found that is Cal State Northridge is known as San Fernando State University before he'd been there that long that it had a different name. So, but that was a wonderful gift by this Dr. James Doc Sefton, and it's amazing how generous he is in there.
Maybe they can change the name, because a lot of the old guys used to call it Nordoff State, which is always fun to think. But maybe they could take some of that money and change the logo on the volleyball floor so that the C actually fits inside of the volleyball court and not just overlaps it so you can't see the sidelines. I'm just saying. The AD is Izzy. I know Izzy a little bit because I work for him at Irvine. Maybe you can get that to fit a little bit. It won't be that hard. It's just a little bit of paint remover.
They did have a matador that covered the entire thing. So I mean, see,
yeah. Well, one last tidbit, and it's we talked about before we got on our call here, but it's a somber atmosphere here in my particular community, and I'd imagine the world, because Kobe Bryant was involved in a very tragic accident this morning in Chatsworth. His helicopter crashed, and man, it just broke my heart, because he and his daughter on that helicopter that crashed, and I was blessed enough to be able to see him in recent years, because his daughter played volleyball at a local high school. So he's at all the matches. And what people don't see is the very human side of the father-daughter relationship. And one of the things that one of his friends, who's an assistant coach at UC Irvine men's basketball, Ryan Battertali, they're really close friends. he was always present with his children, even through all the stardom, through all the success. But he was a great father, and you could see that. He was a big supporter of Natalia and her volleyball career. But, you know, we know Kobe Bryant has inspired athletes to go above and beyond. And I guess from a coaching standpoint, how do you see his influence affecting the athletes that you get to see around the world and on your teams? Surprise question.
Yeah. Well, I think from my side, anytime you've got a public figure like that, and such a good one, like, I mean, beyond good, like family man, professional, married his high school sweetheart, all the things that go along with him, and something tragic like this happened, I think it just hits you. You know what I mean? And certainly as somebody who grew up watching him play, and through his entire career, do you know what I mean? And the guy coming out when he was 18, I think it makes an impact. And it's just, you know, I think some of the athletes now probably don't know the impact as much. They see kind of the end of his career, and they're more impacted by some other current athletes that are playing at a high level. And so, but I certainly think all three of us were in the age where we saw his greatness all the way from the beginning, all the way to where he's retired now, was doing great things in the community. And so, hug your loved ones that are close to you, I think, and enjoy every day from my side. So,
yeah, I echo that sentiment. I think the two things that stick out in my mind when I was at UC Irvine with the women's program, Kobe would train at UC Irvine in one of the gyms occasionally, and he would come in and, you know, then we'd be walking in for practice, and sure enough, he'd be there, and he would come to some of the matches, and the girls obviously loved him, but he was a real human. He wasn't the kind of guy that said, I'm a star and you need to bow down in front of me. He was, you know, he's really genuine, and I appreciated that. And, you know, when you're on level with people, then you only have one name that people know you by. That shows the level of importance, I think, and an impact that you made over the course of your life. He was not just Kobe Bryant; he was Kobe, and that's synonymous with anybody who's made an impact on many people over the years. So, super sorry to hear about that.
Well, you know, one of the things that I think that the world should see is his short that he received an Oscar for, called "Dear Basketball," and it encapsulates his love and passion for basketball, and how that grew into, or how that contributed to developing his skills and his even larger love for the game, and how he's looking back and reflecting on his career. But I think that's a good inspiration for athletes to see the love and genuine passion for doing something they love. So,
agreed, for sure. It's a powerful short.
Yes. Heartfelt condolences to the Bryant family, and from here, the crew at College Volleyball Weekly, in our prayers. We know he's a volleyball fan, loved seeing him at those matches, and he was a great dad. So with that, we'll see you next week with our consortium of college intelligence here in College Volleyball Weekly.